Good day, I am Hannelize Mouton, student number 35263865, studying towards a Bachelor in Consumer Science with focus on nutrition, food and nutrition. Today I'm going to cook a 3-course meal for you, starting off with some tempura prawns. Our main meal will be stuffed chicken breast with a ginger and carrot emulsion and some steamed veggies on the side, and then we'll end off our meal with some decadent chocolate mousse. Next up, I will present my ingredients. It's all laid out here. Everything I need for the tempura prawns is here. Then for my chicken breast, stuffed chicken breast and carrot emulsion, and lastly the ingredients for my chocolate mousse. On this side, I've got all my equipment that I will use today to make my 3-course meal. Everything here for the starter, everything for the main meal, and then what I will need for my dessert. So I'm going to start my meal prep by actually starting with my dessert, which is the chocolate mousse. The reason for this is that it needs to go into the fridge for 2 hours, and that gives me enough time to prep my other 2 meals. So I'll start with the mise en place on my dessert. Firstly, I'm going to weigh off the chocolate on my scale. We need 225 grams of dark chocolate. I'll just break. Oh, on the dot, 225. Perfect. So what we'll do with this now is I'm going to use a pot of water. As you can see, put it on the stove. Put this on top of it so it acts as a double boiler. It's just not touch the bottom, which is not perfect, and that will melt while we prepare the rest of our dessert. Brilliant. Next up, this recipe calls for 5 eggs, which we need to separate into the whites and the yellows. I've got a very nice little egg separator here. So next up I will do that. Now we need to beat the eggs and the sugar together, but first we need to take our 2 teaspoons of sugar, which we will use when we do the egg whites. So that's 1. And 2 teaspoons of sugar. We'll just keep that aside for the egg whites. Now I can add the sugar to the egg yolks, and we'll beat that until it is yellow in color. Let's start beating. There you can see our egg whites and sugar mixture is nicely pale in color, and then we'll move on to the next step. Just get these off. This out of the way. Let's check our chocolate. Slowly melting away. What we also need to do next is beat our egg whites and melt our butter, as this will be incorporated with our chocolate egg mix after being melted. So I'm slowly just going to add this to the stove to slowly start melting. So our chocolate is still melting and our butter is still melting on the stove. We can use this time to beat our egg whites. So I've got my egg whites, my 2 teaspoons of sugar, which I'll beat to a soft beat. Okay, so our chocolate is beautifully melted and it's been cooling down a little bit, and so is our butter, and that's also still cooling down. And here we've got our egg yolk mixture. So first what we'll do is we'll add the chocolate to our egg yolk mixture. Okay, and then we'll add the butter to this as well. Folding technique over until it's all incorporated, which of course gives us some nice and fluffiness to it. So all our egg whites are now folded into the chocolate mixture, and we are ready to put it in my 2 little glasses, which I will serve my chocolate mousse in. To get it in there easier, I've got a piping bag which I just put over a glass so I can easier add the chocolate mousse to it. Okay, so we've got all the mousse in our not chocolate bag, in our piping bag, which nothing we can't clean up, as I will be decorating them later on with some creme fraiche and fresh berries. Great, now it's time to make our main, which is the chicken breast with steamed vegetables in a carrot and ginger emulsion. I'll start with the mise en place for the steamed vegetables. Of course, we'll need a pot of boiling water, which I've already got there on the stove, starting to warm up. We'll need an ice bath. I'll add some water to this to cool down the vegetables rapidly. A paring knife and my vegetable chopping board. And I've got some fine beans and tender baby carrots here. So we'll need 100 grams of each, which I'll weigh off. It's brilliant because this packet is 100 grams, but let's just make sure. On the dot. And 100 grams of carrots. One more. One big one out. Got it. Perfect. Just put this in the bin. Let's start by washing our vegetables. And our carrots. I'm going to use our carrot peeler, which I need to get. It's quite nice, this little green part at the top, and then we'll just peel our carrots so they're nice and... Okay, then we'll start with our ginger and carrot emulsion mise en place. For that, we'll need our carrots, which I've got here. The recipe calls for ginger paste, but I do like using fresh products more. So I decided to buy some ginger and then our butter and our cream. So let's start with the ginger. Just peel it first. We only need 2 mils. So I'm going to use a very, very small little piece, but just grate it finely. Okay. Discard of all these peels. And we'll grate the ginger. We'll only need 2 mils. Should be enough. There. Just use my knife to pick it up. We'll put it to the side until we need it. Okay, next up is the carrots, which we will top and towel, and of course we'll peel them. To ensure that my carrots actually fit into the juicer, I'm just going to use my knife and half them, and then it's time to start making juice. So just adding one by one. And then we just need to measure off our cream, which we will need 15 mils of. 15 mils. And our butter, which we will weigh, and we will need 90 grams of unsalted butter, which I've got, which we gonna chop into little blocks. That's 70, 95, a little bit less. 90 on the dot. This I will now just make into blocks. Before we start preparing our steamed vegetables and our carrot and ginger emulsion, we just need to weigh off 250 mils of our fresh carrot juice. 250. Okay, now we are at the stove where we're gonna We already got our water that's warming up for the steamed vegetables. Of course, it needs to be boiling before we put it in there. And then in this part, we're going to make the ginger and carrot emulsion. I'm going to start by adding our measured off carrot juice. And my ginger. Just give it a nice stir so it blends. Just going to wait for that to simmer away, and then we're going to just take off the first layer of foam that forms as it cooks. Our water is at a boil, and this is where we'll add our vegetables, for the steamed vegetables. They will go in there for 3 minutes, whereafter we will put them in our ice bath, which we prepared here, for 5 minutes for rapidly cooling down. This will help them to retain their color and to give a nice crunch. Let's add them. The time is starting. Okay, it's been 3 minutes and time to take out our vegetables and add it to the ice bath. The slotted spoon. Just let it sit there for 5 minutes. And at the same time, our carrot emulsion has made its first foam. I just want to take off the first batch. After that, we will leave it and to reduce for 10 to 12 minutes. As we would like a more puree consistency than a sauce. Okay, so our carrot and ginger has been reducing quite a lot actually, so it's been 10 to 12 minutes, and what we do now next is we add the 15 ml of cream while whisking nicely that we measured earlier, and then we start adding the butter to form an emulsion bit by bit. Our garlic oil, which we're going to dip our feta in before rolling it. So I'm just going to use some nice olive oil, not too much. Okay. I'm going to grate my garlic with my garlic grater. Peel it. And our green veggie board, and then I'm going to grate it. And we're going to add our garlic to our oil, just give it a nice mixing. There you go. Next up, we'll just cut our feta. So this recipe calls for 100 grams of feta. While practicing this dish, I found that way too much for 2 chicken breasts. So I will only be using 50 grams. I will just take my piece of feta, which I rolled off here, and I'll divide it into 2. So it's a piece of feta for each chicken breast. Keep it there until we need it. Our spinach leaves. Also see that I decided to use baby spinach. I've just found it much easier to work with the whole rolling process. So I'm just going to go and rinse them quickly. Okay, next up is our chicken breast. We start by using our mallet to flatten our chicken breasts to make them easier to roll. I usually use some cling wrap in between, just to ensure I don't heat them into little pieces, and they stay intact. Our chicken breasts, you can see, flat. And now we're just going to season them with some freshly ground black pepper. Pack on top of the chicken like this. Then we're going to add the feta. First, before we do, we're going to dip our feta block into our garlic oil. Go. Then we're going to roll it around the feta and the spinach. And when we get to the end, we're just going to pin it with a toothpick so it doesn't open up. Go. You can see I've got some cling wrap here, and that's for a reason. What I've noticed, if you roll it in the cling wrap nice and tightly, and you just put it in the fridge for about an hour or so, it really keeps its cylindrical shape much better. So we're going to tightly roll this. Pressing in here on the sides. And then we're going to twist the ends in opposite directions. You can see it's a beautiful shape and we'll keep its shape. So it's just going to stay like that for a while. Okay, next up we need to brown our chicken before it goes into the oven. I put the oven on earlier at 180 degrees Celsius. So by doing that, we're going to take our chicken, just roll it in some flour. Give it a nice coating. I'm just going to add it to the pan. It is brown, still sizzling. I've lined a baking tray with some baking paper. And then we're just going to add our chicken to our tray. We'll cover it with some foil. And that will go to the oven for 20 to 25 minutes once all cooked through. Next up, we'll start our mise en place for our tempura prawns, which I'll be serving with a spicy mayonnaise. So what I'll start with is our mayonnaise. Firstly, we'll need some fresh lemon juice. I need 15 mils. So 1 lemon would be enough for this. Okay. We need 1 egg yolk to start with. Only the yolk, not the egg white, so we'll discard that. Let's get it all out there. We'll also need 10 grams of Dijon mustard, which I'll measure off. That's 6. And a perfect 10. We'll need 150 mils of vegetable oil for this. Here you go. Some freshly ground white pepper. And then I'm going to add some Chinese 5-spice to this to just give it a little bit of an Asian feeling and a little bit of a kick. All by combining the egg yolk with the mustard. And salt to taste. I'll just use a little bit of a pinch. And that we will whisk for 20 seconds. And that's done. We'll start adding the oil drop for drop in the beginning while continuously whisking. And then we'll add the rest in a long stream until the emulsion forms. Then we'll whisk in the lemon juice, which will only need 15 mils of. So I'll just measure 15 mils here. And then we'll whisk that in. Also here we will add the pepper and our Chinese 5-spice. So we've got ground white pepper here. To taste. So I'll just add a pinch of that. And a pinch of the Chinese 5-spice. And then we whisk. Next up, we're going to have to measure out our prawns. We need 150 grams of prawns, and of course after that we'll have to clean them by taking off the head, the shell and the little vein that's inside. 150 grams. Okay, so how do we actually devein a prawn? I'm going to start by removing the head. You take off the little shell. See, this one's quite icky. The easiest way is actually just to make a little slither at the back. And just take it off. I am going to keep the tail intact, as I find it quite cool to grab onto if you eat your tempura prawns with your hands. Whoops. You can see the little vein there. I'm going to just make a incision, and there it comes out by itself actually. So yeah, we'll do all of them. Just rinse them afterwards as well. Finally, we're going to start making the batter for our tempura prawns. But first, I'm going to add some oil to the pan and start heating up the oil slowly so it's nice and hot by the time we need it. Of course, for this we are using the deep frying method. So we'll need to cover the prawns while cooking in the oil, so I added quite a lot. Okay, the batter. We'll start by, we need 1 egg. We'll just keep this on the side until we need it. Okay, then we're going to sift together the corn flour and some normal flour. For both of these, we need 40 grams of flour. So I'm just going to measure it off directly into the bowl. And of course, it needs to be sifted as well. Okay. Get a spoon to get this out. We'll add this to our dry ingredients and sift it. Okay. Make sure that gets off at the sides. We'll also need 80 mils of soda water for our tempura batter. What's nice about this thing, it's got a small little, smaller measurements on the side. 70. Bubbles are confusing. So that'll drop. Okay, cool. So make a small little bowl in the middle. We're going to add our soda water. And our egg. Okay. And we're going to whisk it from inside out. The recipe says it's okay if it's a little bit lumpy. Okay, we are back at the stove to cook our tempura prawns. First we need to see if our oil is hot enough, and for that we'll do the breadcrumb test. So if you take a breadcrumb and you add it, and it starts sizzling, it's perfect. So we've got our prawns here and we've got our batter, and what we'll do is dredge our prawns in the batter like that. The excess go off. See, that's also where the tail is quite nice because I'm holding it at the tail right now. Okay, our prawns are cooked. They're a beautiful golden color. I will now take them off with a slotted spoon. Whoops, onto some paper towel. I'm going to start with my tempura prawns, which I'll be serving on that plate. First up is our mayo. I want to make nice dots of mayo. So again, I've got my piping bag in a glass. I'm just going to add the mayo to the piping bag. So I'll start by adding my 5 prawns, just nicely on a little heap. That's a nice big one. Adding 2, literally just my dot. Just 1, 2, and just my dot 3. Also add some soy sauce to our plate. Nice for dipping. And to finish it off, I'll just add some pea shoots. There you go, tempura prawn starter. Next up, we'll plate our main course, which of course is a stuffed chicken breast with a ginger and carrot emulsion and our steamed veggies on the side. We'll start, I'm going to prepare it in this bowl by putting the carrot and ginger. Of course, we made 2, I'm only going to use 1. This. Another one you keep next to it. Just want to wash my hands quickly. Either in the emulsion. Choose my 2 nicest carrots. That's a nice carrot. Let's use this one. And there's our dish. Finally, we're going to start the plating of our chocolate mousse. Just set perfectly. Yay. Again, I'm with my party bag for my creme fraiche, which I'm going to cut on top of my mousse. Next up, I just want to sip a little bit of cacao over my plate. Also trying to keep the indentation of the spoon, which worked perfectly. Okay, and we'll add our dish to our chocolate mousse to the plate, and I'm just going to decorate it with some raspberries. And for our dessert, delicious chocolate mousse topped off with creme fraiche and raspberries. And lastly, the proof is in the pudding, so it's probably time for me to taste. First up is our tempura prawns. Very nice and crispy. I'm extremely chuffed with these, I have to say. We'll dip it in our mayonnaise first. Perfect. Very, very happy with these. We can move on to our main, which is sweet. It's a nice crunch on our vegetables. Ginger from the emulsion coming through nicely. And we can just taste our chicken. Some of the emulsion on top of it. The garlic coming through is so lovely. Perfectly cooked. Nice and moist inside. Quite impressed with that one as well. And last but not least, the mousse. It's just try to get to the mousse. Some of the creme fraiche with it. Wow. Beautiful mousse. I love the addition of the creme fraiche. It just breaks the extreme sweetness and richness of the mousse, and I'm sure that Barry would do that even more. Thank you. That was fun.